The diplomatic incident. The massive space station called. Harmony's Rest floated in the empty space between star systems. It was the size of a small moon and served as the meeting place for all the different alien races in the galaxy. Today, something important was happening. The humans were here for their first big meeting with the Galactic Council. Captain Sarah Chen walked through the long hallways of the station. Her black military uniform looked simple compared to the fancy clothes worn by the aliens around her. She was not very tall, but she moved with purpose. Her brown eyes took in everything around her as she headed to the meeting room. The hallways were filled with strange beings. Some looked like giant crystals that moved and talked. Others were clouds of gas that somehow stayed together in the shape of people. There were creatures with too many arms, others with no arms at all, and some that looked like walking trees. All of them stared at Sarah as she passed by. Sarah did not mind the stares. She knew what they were thinking. Humans were new to the galaxy. Most of these aliens had been traveling between stars for thousands of years before. Humans even learned to make fire. To them, humans were just babies who had recently learned to walk. Ambassador Torres was waiting for Sarah outside the meeting room. He was an older man with grey hair and kind eyes. He had been working with aliens for many years and knew their ways. "Are you ready for this?" Torres asked Sarah in a quiet voice. "As ready as I can be," Sarah replied. "What should I expect?" "The Zafarans think they are the strongest race in the galaxy," Torres explained. "They have won every war they have ever fought. Their commander, Vextra, is very proud. He does not like it when people disagree with him." Sarah nodded. She had read about the Zapirians in her briefing files. They were blue-skinned aliens with forearms and were known for being excellent fighters. They had conquered many worlds and made other races serve them. The meeting room was huge. The ceiling was so high that Sarah could barely see it. A long table sat in the center of the room, surrounded by chairs of different sizes and shapes to fit all the different types of aliens. Large windows showed the stars outside. Commander Vexatharo was already seated at the table. He was bigger than Sarah had expected. His blue skin had dark stripes and his forearms were thick with muscle. Two of his hands rested on the table while the other two hung at his sides. His eyes were yellow with black slits like a snake. When he looked at Sarah, she could see that he thought she was weak. "So this is the human representative," Vexter said. His voice was deep and rough. "You look very small for a warrior race." "I am not here to fight," Sarah said calmly. "I am here to talk about mining rights in the neutral zones." Vextra laughed. It was not a friendly sound. All the best conversations start with the thread of force, human. That is how the galaxy works. Other aliens began to fill the room. The crystal beings made musical sounds as they moved. The gas creatures whispered to each other in voices like wind. Everyone found their seats and the meeting began. Ambassador Torres spoke first. He explained that humans wanted to mine asteroids in the space between Zapirian territory and human space. The asteroids contained rare metals that humans needed to build their ships and cities. "The terms are simple," Vexada said when Torres finished. "You give us 70% of everything you mine. We let you work in that space without attacking your ships." "That seems unfair," Sarah said. "We would be doing all the work while you get most of the profit." "Fair." Vextha's yellow eyes grew bright with anger. "You have been in space for less than 100 years. We have ruled this part of the galaxy for over 2,000 years. You should be grateful we let you exist at all." "We are grateful for the chance to talk," Sarah replied. "But we will not accept a deal that bad. Perhaps we can find something that works for both of us." "There is nothing to discuss," Vextra said, standing up. All four of his arms moved as he talked. "You take our offer or you leave." "Then I think we should look for other options," Sarah said. She remained sitting and kept her voice calm. Maybe other races would be more reasonable to work with. Vexathara's face turned darker blue with rage. "You dare suggest that the mighty Zapirians are not reasonable? You think some other weak race would be better partners than us? I think any race that wants to work together, instead of just taking what they want, would be better partners," Sarah said. The room became very quiet. Even the gas creatures stopped whispering. Everyone could feel that something bad was about to happen. "You insult us," Bxathra said. His voice was now very quiet, which made it sound more dangerous. You come here from your little world and think you can speak to us like equals. Your species is nothing. You are used to dealing with weak races that roll over when you push them. Actually, Sarah said, still calm. We are used to fighting for everything we get. Our world taught us that nothing comes easy. That was the wrong thing to say. Vexathara had been looking for a reason to put the humans in their place. His pride had been hurt in front of all the other alien races. He could not let a human, especially such a small one, speak to him like that. Before anyone could react, Vexathara moved. He was fast for such a big creature. One of his 4 hands came across the table and hit Sarah hard across the face. The sound echoed through the quiet room like a gunshot. The blow was strong enough to break the bones of most alien species. It was meant to send Sarah flying across the room and show everyone what happened when you disrespected a Zephyrian commander. But Sarah barely moved. Her head turned slightly to the right from the impact. A thin line of blood appeared at the corner of her mouth, but she did not fall. She did not cry out. She did not even seem surprised. Slowly, very slowly, Sarah turned her head back to look at Vexathara. When her brown eyes met his yellow ones, something had changed. The other aliens in the room felt it immediately. Some of them actually took steps backward without knowing why. Sarah wiped the blood from her mouth with the back of her hand. When she spoke, her voice was still calm, but now it carried something else. Something that made the temperature in the room seem to drop. Commander Vexter, she said quietly. On my world, when someone strikes another person like that, it means only one thing. It is a challenge to fight to the death. Vexathara laughed, but it sounded forced. Your world must be full of fools, then. Do you really think you can fight me, little human? Sarah stood up slowly. She was still much smaller than Vexathara, but somehow she seemed more dangerous now. I think, she said, that you have made a very big mistake. The other aliens watched in fascination and growing fear. None of them had ever seen what happened when you made a human angry. They were about to learn why Earth was marked in their databases as a Deathworld, a planet so dangerous that most species would die just from visiting it. Sarah looked around the room at all the watching aliens. I need 5 minutes to prepare, she said. And I suggest you start recording this. The galaxy is about to learn something important about humans. The challenge. The meeting room erupted in chaos as aliens began talking all at once. Some spoke in musical tones, others in clicks and whistles, and a few made sounds like grinding metal. But underneath all the noise, everyone was asking the same question. Had a human really just challenged a Zephyrian commander to a fight to the death? Ambassador Torres closed his eyes. He had worked so hard to make this first meeting go smoothly. Now everything was falling apart, but he also knew Sarah Chen. And he knew that once she made up her mind about something, nothing could change it. Captain Chen, Torres said quietly. Perhaps we should think about this. There might be another way to handle this situation. Sarah looked at him with those brown eyes that now seemed to hold fire. Ambassador, with respect, he struck me in front of representatives from dozens of species. If I back down now, every alien in the galaxy will think humans are weak. They will think they can hit us whenever they want. She was right. And Torres knew it. In the galaxy, respect was earned through strength. If humans showed weakness now, it would make every future negotiation much harder. Commander Vexathara was still laughing. He had 4 arms, each one stronger than both of a human's arms combined. He was taller, heavier, and had been trained to fight since he was young. In his mind, this would be the easiest fight of his life. I accept your foolish challenge, human, Vexter said loudly so everyone could hear. When I am done with you, your people will know their place in this galaxy. Good, Sarah said simply. She turned to address the room full of aliens. I need to send a message to my ship and prepare for combat. I request 5 minutes. A tall alien that looked like it was made of living crystal spoke up. Its voice sounded like wind chimes. This request is reasonable. The combat area will be prepared. Sarah walked to a quiet corner of the room and activated her communicator. The device was small and looked simple, but it could send messages across thousands of light years in just seconds. Captain Chen to Earth Command, she said quietly into the device. Earth Command here, came the reply. What is your status, Captain? I have been challenged to single combat by the Zephyrian commander. He struck me during negotiations. I am requesting permission to show these aliens why our world is classified as a forbidden zone. There was a long pause. Sarah could imagine the discussion happening back on Earth. The generals and politicians would be weighing the risks and benefits. Finally, the answer came. Permission granted. Pake. It educational for them. Sarah smiled for the first time since being hit. Understood command. Chen out. She turned back to the room and saw that the aliens were busy setting up a space for the fight. Chairs and tables were being moved to create a large circle in the center of the room. Some aliens were setting up recording devices while others were making what looked like bets on the outcome. Ambassador Torres approached her again. Sarah, I have to ask, are you sure about this? Vexthra is not just any Zephyrian. He is one of their best warriors. He has killed dozens of opponents in combat. I know, Sarah said. I read his file. But he has never fought a human before. What makes you so confident? Torres asked. Sarah looked at him seriously. Do you know what the mortality rate was for humans before we developed modern medicine? Torres shook his head. 60% of children died before their FTH birthday, Sarah said. Not from war or starvation, but just from living on Earth. Our world tried to kill us every single day. Poisonous animals, deadly weather, diseases, predators that could smell us from miles away. Everything on Earth wanted to eat us, kill us, or use us as food for their babies. She paused and looked around the room at all the different aliens. These species come from worlds where the biggest danger might be a storm or an earthquake. They evolved to be intelligent because their worlds were safe, enough for them to spend time thinking, instead of fighting just to stay alive. And humans? Torres asked, though he thought he knew the answer. Humans evolved to be intelligent and dangerous. Sarah said we had to be smart enough to make tools and work together, but also fast enough and strong enough to kill things that were trying to kill us. Every human alive today is descended from millions of years of survivors. Torres nodded slowly. He was beginning to understand why. Earth was marked as a Deathworld in the galactic databases. Across the room, Commander Vexathera was preparing for battle in the traditional Zahirian way. He removed his outer clothing to show his muscled blue skin. Scars covered his arms and chest, proof of his many victories. He performed stretching exercises that showed off his flexibility and strength. 2 Zephyrian assistants brought him his weapons. Traditional combat blades that curved slightly and were sharp enough to cut through most types of armor. He would carry one blade in each of his 4 hands, giving him a huge advantage in speed and reach. The other aliens watched his preparation with obvious respect. The Zephyrians were known throughout the galaxy as master warriors. Many species had tried to resist them over the centuries, and all had failed. Meanwhile, Sarah Chen was doing something much simpler. She removed her military jacket and folded it neatly. Underneath, she wore a simple black shirt that showed her arms and shoulders. To the watching aliens, she looked terrifyingly ordinary. But Ambassador Torres, who had worked with humans for years, noticed things that the aliens missed. Sarah's muscles were not as big as Vexthorus, but they were dense and clearly defined. Her movements were smooth and controlled like a cat getting ready to hunt. Most importantly, her breathing and heart rate were actually slowing down instead of speeding up. Why is she becoming calmer? Asked one of the crystal beings. Torres smiled grimly. Because humans are persistence hunters. We evolved to chase our prey for hours or even days until it was too tired to run anymore. When we get ready to fight, we don't get excited. We get focused. Sarah walked to the center of the combat circle. She had requested no weapons, which had confused many of the aliens. How could she fight a trained warrior with 4 blades using nothing but her bare hands? Are you ready to die, human? Vexathara asked as he entered the circle. His 4 blades caught the light and gleamed like silver fire. Are you? Sarah replied quietly. The room fell silent except for the quiet hum of the recording devices. Representatives from dozens of species watched as a small human woman faced off against one of the galaxy's most feared warriors. Commander Vexathara raised his 4 weapons and prepared to attack. He had fought many different species over the years, but they had all used similar tactics. They tried to match his speed and strength, or they tried to stay far away and wear him down. All of them had failed. Sarah Chen stood perfectly still in the center of the circle. Her hands hung loose at her sides. Her brown eyes never left Vexathara's face. She looked like she was waiting for something, but no one knew what. "Begin," called the crystal being who was serving as the judge. Vexta charged forward with a roar, all 4 blades spinning in a deadly pattern that had never failed to kill his opponents. The fight was about to begin. Preparation and revelation. While the combat area was being prepared, news of the challenge spread quickly through the space station. Aliens from dozens of different species began gathering outside the meeting room. Some came because they were curious about humans. Others came because they wanted to see Commander Vexathar fight. Most came because they had never seen a human in actual combat before. The crystal beings, who called themselves the hierarchs, were especially interested. They lived for thousands of years and collected information about every species they met. Their databases contained detailed files on almost every intelligent race in the galaxy, but their file on humans was surprisingly thin. "What do we actually know about human combat abilities?" asked one hierarch to another. Its crystalline body pulsed with different colors as it thought. "Very little," replied the second hierarch. "They come from what we classify as a Class 12 Deathworld. The gravity is 30% higher than galactic standard. The atmosphere contains high levels of oxygen, which makes fires burn faster and hotter. The weather systems are violent and unpredictable." But what about the humans themselves? Their initial scans showed normal physical capabilities for a species their size. Bone density is higher than average. Muscle fibers are more compact, but nothing that seemed unusual. They appeared to be a typical developing species. The first hierarch's colors shifted to show confusion. If they are so ordinary, why is their world classified as forbidden to most species? Because 97% of known species would die within 1 local day of landing on Earth. Came the answer. Not from the humans, but from the planet itself. The microbial life, the atmospheric pressure, the background radiation, the predatory animals. Everything on that world is hostile to life. Meanwhile, in the preparation area, Sarah Chen was getting ready in her own way. She sat quietly on a simple chair, eyes closed, breathing slowly and deeply. To the watching aliens, it looked like she was sleeping or meditating. They had no idea what was actually happening. Sarah was entering what human soldiers called the zone. It was a state of mind that humans could reach when they needed to fight for their lives. Her heart rate slowed to 40 beats per minute. Her breathing became so quiet that it was almost silent. Her mind cleared of everything except the fight that was coming. This was something that had evolved in humans over millions of years. When their ancestors faced dangerous predators on the African plains, those who could stay calm and focused were the ones who survived. Those who panicked or let emotions control them became food for lions and hyenas. Captain Chen opened her eyes and looked at her hands. They were steady without even the smallest shake. She flexed her fingers and felt the strength in them. Human hands had evolved to grip tools and weapons, but they could also crush and tear when necessary. She stood up and began a series of simple stretches. To her, they were just basic exercises to keep her muscles loose. But to the aliens watching, her movements looked wrong somehow. Too fluid, too controlled, like a predator testing its own body before a hunt. "Look at how she moves," whispered a gas creature to its companion. "It is like she is made of flowing water." "No," replied the other gas being. "It is like she is made of controlled violence." Sarah finished her stretches and walked over to where Ambassador Torres was standing. The older man looked worried, which was understandable.